This is just a short video of my biochar retort. I don't know how to what to call this really. It's kind of like a J-type rocket stove and partially buried underground. So you can see here, this pipe here is an air inlet, and then this is where you actually put the fuel timber, which heats up the material in the inner drum and causes it to char. So that's exciting. Now I've got another retort behind me, and that's just about to go into pyrolysis. So that was just washing out some wood gas at the bottom. It gave me a bit of a start. Anyhow, what's quite interesting is the wood gas that's leaking out from this. It's an old aluminium camping pan, and it's just drawing that down underground and working really quite well. I don't know how much you'll be able to hear, because you've got this one here which is roaring away quite fiercely. But what's interesting one, because this is quite subdued, because most of this is going on underground, and then I've got bricks around here. So there's two drums. This is a full size, or a full I think that's 60 litre drum, and there's a partially cut down drum as well, and then there's all sorts of refractory bricks and fire bricks and concrete blocks underground. So what I've got this is like a secondary air intake, and the primary air intake is underground. So this is I dug this down with a well auger, 200mm diameter. It's enlarged a little bit, it's about 300mm diameter. That goes down about 1.5 meters, and there's some standing water in there. But problem is I've got a sort of bilge pump here just to bail that out, because the water table's quite high here, so it's around about a foot down below the top of the wood chip. So what I've done, I've sort of terraced this with just some concrete blocks I'd knocking about, and then I've made a couple of slabs over there. So when I've got the galvanised bucket there, I've got a watering can to quench the charcoal. I'll fill up the bucket, chop it all up with a spade, and then put that in those bags there. So I've got 2 or 3 of those bags. And then this is previously where I was doing a charcoal, and you can see it's really black, there's all charcoal everywhere. But I'm going to raise that up, and I might put a greenhouse there as well. It's quite flat. But obviously when I've raised up the plot, I've sort of terraced it again with old fence posts. So I'm really quite warm here, because I'm sort of sandwiched between the 2 stoves. So I don't know how much you're going to be able to see. So that one's sort of working quite well. I've got the lid cracked a little bit, just for a bit more airflow. So it's getting a little bit dark now, so you can see it's really roaring around underneath. And the inner drum, I'm sitting that on a cast iron grate from a fireplace, from an open fire, and that makes like a kind of stand up. So the actual burn is going on under there, and you can just see those sort of serrated bits. That's the bottom of the cast iron grate, and the inner drum actually sits on top of that. And that's really hot down there. You can see that it's all glowing orange. It's warm for me. You can see it's really roaring, and you can hear the wood gas being off gas from the inner drum. So it's largely softwood in here, and I was burning, there's some plywood and bits and pieces I wanted to get rid of, so I was just using those largely, and someone had some old timber from their allotment. So this can handle quite a long length. It's 1 meter long, that pipe, because it plunges down underground, so it's at 45 degrees. But the problem is, when I was designing this, I really wanted this to be a lot lower down. I'm using this full-size drum, and what I've noticed is it's pretty clean burning really, compared to the sort of open fires that people have. But this was a kind of work in progress, so I'm sort of making up as I go along, and I haven't dug down as far as I really want to dig down. But the concrete blocks are working really well. They're really keeping the heat in. and then I just used wood chip just to infill between. So some of the wood chips burning around the outside. Well, that's hot. Woo. But it's good though, because that's actually radiating out heat straight back into the burn as well. When I've got this kind of perfected, I'm kind of tempted to scale this up. So rather than a 60 litre drum, I'll use a 200 litre drum. But as I said, it's a kind of hit and trial and error in terms of getting a really nice sort of grate at the bottom and having enough air. Because obviously with these things it's a kind of formula. But I kind of like this how it's working here. So rather than having a gas tight seal, it's leaking out a little bit of wood gas, but then that fire's drawing it down, so it's plunging down into the ground and then underneath the inner drum and then charring the timber inside. I was using an old cake cooling tray as a sort of grate before, and that just burnt through, and the fire just fell down into the base, so there wasn't that aeration providing the air to the bottom of the fire. But this has got air above and below, so it's probably burning pretty efficiently, I would have thought. But look at that. What is quite good as well, you can kind of see what's going on. It's nice having that little window, gives you an idea. And you can see that flame is actually pushing down, so that's the wood gas that's burning, and that's really that gas that's fueling the burn, and it's just that little bit of wood underneath, which is just embers, just enough to heat that wood gas to get it to ignite. So you don't need a massive fire, so once it's started, you just pretty much leave it to it. And what is nice is when it's finished charring, you won't get any of that roaring, so you know it's kind of done, and then you've just got embers underneath, so you can just push a few bits of wood down, take that pan away so it's got a bit more air, empty out the drum and quench the charcoal, and then by the time you've done all that, it's got a nice fire, so it's ready to go. And this is the first one I made as a sort of trial, but you can see the wood gas being produced at the bottom, and that's just starting to ignite. It's really, really hot, it's really fierce, and you can see just really burning away. And then again, it's just nice and clear, just a big heat haze. That one's a little bit smoky at the moment, but what is interesting is it hasn't burnt off the paint. That one doesn't have any paint. That one's been used quite a few times now. And there's the charcoal. It's all sort of super porous. You can see the cell structure. It just wants to absorb. And it's really nice. Look at that. So I'm going to add this to a hotbed with brewer's waste and wood chip, and I'm also going to use this in the bottom of my wormeries because that's superb as like a wicking material, and it really keeps them really sweet as well. So there's a bucket ready to crush down, so I'll sweep it up, crush that down in the bucket and put it in the bag. So I've got the bags here. That's really nice stuff again. I kind of like this bigger pieces in the compost bin because it will break up, and when you empty the bin, it breaks up to nothing. But I mean, you can see the amount of air in there, and the worms absolutely go mad for this stuff. So there's a big bag there, really heavy. Another big bag there, small bag here, and then this is the timber I'm kind of burning. So some of this has got varnish on it, so I'm just using that as to heat up the wood. And I've got a pallet there just to raise it off the ground on the top, just in case it rains. But this one is still a bit of a learning curve, and this one is pretty much what it is. So it's kind of fierce. It's just burning away, roaring away. I leave a little bit of an air gap there, so it's got a bit of secondary air. It seems to be pretty happy, and sometimes I just give it that just sort of rattles any ash down and make sure there's air, but you can see it and you can hear it, so you know it's working well. And then you can see that little air gap there. So as I said before, when I had this without the two separate drums, something about it really wanted that extra aeration. So what I'm tempted to do, and Dan mentioned this, I've got a baffle here, so I've got a little bit of control over the flue, but I might put like a venturi, so as the gas comes up here, as the smoke's burning, it hits the restriction with the venturi, and then you have secondary air inlets, and then as it goes through the venturi it funnels down for a taper, and then immediately it expands again, so you've got negative pressure sucking in the secondary air, so you've got more oxygen, and then that force makes more of an efficient burn, and then you're kind of getting more of a draft as well. But you can see it's super fierce. But with this, I've just been working sort of, this has been going since 10 o'clock, it's been going all day, and I've just been adding load after load into the inner drum. But what is nice, because I've got some grab handles on here, so I get some bits of 4x2, slot them through there, lift that up, take the lid off, and then I normally use a pair of mole grips or locking pliers just to lift up that drum. I left those at home today, so I'm just using a pair of secateurs just to catch on the edge of that, lift it up, and then that's pretty much level with the bricks, and then the top of the inner drum is just level there, so pretty much most of that drum is kind of buried or behind that concrete, and this is like a kind of secondary afterburner sort of burn chamber, so that just gives you a space for more of that wood gas to burn. I've actually got a secondary drum or a tube inside, and that might be why it's not quite as efficient. I might take that out and just see what happens. Thank you.